I'm Janelle Etzel. Welcome to the JoyPunk podcast, where we feature interviews with courageous leaders who are carving niches in their respective industries, creating community, and building businesses and movements for change. Today's guest is Portland musician and activist Randal Wyatt, founder of Taking Ownership PDX. Taking Ownership renovates and revives Black-owned homes where owners have requested help, with an emphasis on enabling Black homeowners to age in place, generate wealth, and simultaneously deter predatory investors and deflect the gentrification process. Taking Ownership has raised funds and awareness through a team of passionate activists aided by volunteers hitting the streets and making a significant difference in the lives of our Black neighbors. Welcome, Randal. It's an honor to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I recently heard you speak, and I felt like you said some words that to me define what a JoyPunk is, and that is like going in to things with wholeheartedly, with a faith in the universe, but calculated and done your research.
Somewhat, yeah, definitely. Some calculation. Can't put my family at risk.
Right.
Yeah.
I just love that. And where do you think this feeling of this optimism comes from, or faith comes from?
Well, at this point, I think experience, but I've always had it, even as a young kid. Well, not so much as a young kid. I was pretty shy and not as outgoing, but something happened after I had my kids at 19 where I was just like, I can't be timid and reserved if I want to, one, reach my goals and my dreams, and also see the world that I want to see for my son. So I just kind of started being a lot more outgoing, doing things that I've always dreamed of doing, and, working towards the future that I wanted for myself and my sons.
You were a young father. And had you already been in the music world before you had your sons, or were they an inspiration to really dive into that world?
Actually, right before I graduated high school, I started deciding I'm going to, see what this is about. I started working on my first album, going to the studio, played a couple shows as like a guest MC with some friends that were already pretty established playing gigs. So yeah, I was kind of already going towards it, but I kicked it up a notch once I became a father and was trying to figure out the business side of everything and seeing if I could make a little bit of money off of music, which I did exactly that, made a little bit of money.
I love it, though, that, a lot of people are like, I got to get serious. I got to put food on the table. I think I'll be a hip hop artist.
So naive. I mean, so naive. But it totally laid a foundation for, jobs that were rewarding and for what I'm doing today, if you ask me.
Yeah. It's brave to follow your heart and passion. And, my story is I was in a girls' punk band, and I talk all the time about how that experience in music informed, I think, all the hustle skills that I have in business.
Absolutely. It is such a grind in the music industry. It's so competitive, it's oversaturated. And I mean, in the nonprofit world, it's very similar when it comes to going after grants and resources. Everybody wants a piece. I mean, and then you realize maybe you should partner with people. Maybe you should work together. And I did the same thing in the music industry, started working with musicians, started working with other MCs and, helping other people get on gigs and get their foot in the door. And then eventually you find yourself with a community of people that want to see you win.
In music and in like what you do, it's about, like finding your unique voice, right? And really be able to send that message home that connects with folks and like brings in, because you need to bring in a crowd of support. Tell us a little bit about like, when did you know that Taking Ownership like needed to happen? What was the stroke of inspiration? What led to creating it?
Since I started going back to college, I've done the whole go to college dropout thing several times. When I went back, I started studying sociology and Black studies, doing some really in-depth studying of white supremacy and the plight of African Americans and just society in general. And so I just thought, it would be a great idea because I don't see the government giving reparations to African Americans anytime soon. I thought, well, there's a lot of people that agree that African Americans deserve reparations for what, happened to us. Why not create a platform where they can support that? I didn't know it was going to look like home repairs.
Yeah.
Until I just kind of realized white supremacy is very much predicated on land ownership.
Yeah.
Taking land, keeping land, excluding non-white people from getting land. And so I thought, and being from Northeast Portland and Southeast Portland, seeing how those neighborhoods have changed immensely over the years, I thought, how do we stop gentrification from displacing African Americans from our communities? And then I kind of learned, they're very vulnerable when their homes are in disarray, when they're not maintained well. They get liens and fines on their homes. So I thought, okay, well, I know what we can do then. We can start helping clean up their homes, fix up their homes, keep the city off their back. And then, money started pouring in, support started pouring in, and it just kind of blew up overnight.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think what you're doing speaks to so many of the systemic racism policies that so many that need to be unwound. But one of those being we have a Bureau of Development and Services that is motivated, incentivized, right?
Yeah.
To put liens on property, and that just keeps if someone doesn't have money to fix up their property, how does fining them help them fix up their property? It's we see that in property management we were really supportive of ban the box,
right?
Because it's if someone's done their time and then they still have to put the felony on an application, it's what are we doing? We're just perpetuating a system.
It just puts them right back where they were, and it's not like the homeowner wants their home to be in that condition. They want to fix it. And what's the logic behind fining them and then having accruing debt? And, the logic is leave them vulnerable to predatory real estate professionals and developers, because as those accrue, they're going to be more apt to take a under market offer and get that lump sum of cash for a house that maybe was paid off in the 80s. Because a lot of them, when we talk about the Black community, is senior citizens. A lot of them are on Social Security. They don't have the ability to maintain their homes themselves because of, a lot of them are on disability.
Yeah.
So it just leaves them even more vulnerable and in a position to where they can get their home taken from them. And then it's developed into what we've seen in the city as a lot of condos and in the Albina neighborhood, I can speak to that at least.
Yeah. And I think for a city that kind of, or I guess talks the talk of diversity, where we as a city are we have to do something about being the whitest city in America, and we honor diversity, and then we let our neighbors, those diverse neighbors, alone to try to fight these liens and these fines I've come and volunteered with Taking Ownership before and helping a neighbor clean their yard. And it's just it's so rewarding. It's so fun. And then that's the work, right? That's the work of actually ensuring that we have diverse neighborhoods. And
that's what human nature is really. I mean, it's working together. One thing capitalism took from humans is the village. We can't do this by ourselves. The individualism that we've created mentally or just around capitalism, the competitiveness and individuality is not going to be sustainable for us humans. And so we got to be compassionate. We got to, instead of calling the city on your neighbor whose house is in rough shape, go over there and see how maybe you can help. See what, maybe offer some resources before you go and put them in a position where they're getting a lien or a fine on their home. And that's, what I was trying to cultivate with this model is the volunteer aspect of it.
It's so cool.
It's beautiful that you felt that way when you volunteered.
Yeah. More and more, I'm just thinking about what are the ways I can participate in the economy of community.
Exactly.
That, and the reward and the connection and the deep roots that you get from doing that and showing up, and it's that. There's probably nothing better.
It's beautiful. I mean, this is the most rewarding work I've ever done.
And it's so cool. So you're in school, you're starting to form these you have this calling, these big ideas. And then how did you narrow it down from a passion to do work to this action of actually creating Taking Ownership PDX?
So I was working at Portland Youth Builders as a student advocate, and that population there started changing pretty significantly. There was quite a bit of students of color when I started there, and then it started changing to a different demographic. So I actually told my supervisor, I was like, hey, I want to actually go to an organization that serves the Black community again, because I used to work for POIC, which is a culturally specific organization for African Americans. So I wanted to do that again. I told them that Portland Youth Builders, they do construction. And so I brought it to them. I was like, well, what if we fixed up Black-owned homes for free? And they're like, we can't do that because, they're funders and stuff like that. So I just started sharing the ideas on Facebook and Instagram, like right around the time George Floyd was murdered. So that'd been May of 2020. And people were, like really in support, and they're like, go for it, do it. And so I had a woman reach out to me who was a big fan of my band, Speaker Minds, at the time. She used to go to our shows a lot. And she was like, I have a duplex in one of the units. I'm trying to get ready for my daughter to move in. Can you help me fix it up? Because we need the hands. So I got the word out to social media. And I was thinking originally, we're just going to have volunteers come out and start swinging hammers and cleaning up stuff. And I didn't think about the money aspect, but a friend of mine was like, well, here's $100 because I don't know how to do any of that stuff. So hire somebody that does or get the materials or something. And so we just started, all of a sudden, money started coming in, and I just started using that to fix up this duplex, the unit. And from there, I probably started in early June. And then from there, it just kind of started snowballing into an actual legit organization. Yeah. We got our fiscal sponsor in July, got our LLC in July, and then everything else just kind of evolved. This has been evolving and evolving. I've been learning more and more about how to run an organization and nonprofit. So it's just kind of been like an ongoing thing. But the ideas started coming out probably in May of 2020.
I have to tell you, I got blown up all the time. People were sending me posts about you. Hey, are you aware of what this guy's doing? This seems like such a good partnership for living room. It's a pandemic and everyone's looking for ways to lean in. And it was like, here he is again,
It surprised me too. I did not expect it to go so fast. For me to tell my supervisor, like, hey, I want to work with the Black community again. I was like, can you give me a couple months to figure out where I want to go and all that? And then Taking Ownership happens like a couple weeks later, and I'm able to leave that job and do Taking Ownership full time within like a month and a half or so.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was just as surprised how much traction it got and engagement and publicity, news outlets reaching out and things like that. It was wild.
The thing that a lot of people don't understand that have never run a business is they're like, oh, that's great. Like, you just took off. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, yeah, but you're also building an airplane while you're flying it. I mean, it is so stressful. It's like,
yes,
like people will say, like, prepare for success, because that is what is one of the hardest things, is just like to have the money flowing in, to have the demand, and then to try to figure out the structures and the team and how to serve it and not let it, and of course not let it crash, right?
Exactly. It's so much work. And a lot of people also don't know, like, I have done other projects that just didn't take off the way it did. It did. Like, I did like a Measure 11 prevention and education project where we went around and educated youth and their families on what Measure 11 is, because that was so impactful against juveniles or against youth. And so I was doing all kinds of side projects that just never really popped. So I had some idea, but this was just kind of like, wow. Like, I always say, like, it chose me. It felt like that, because I had no idea that this would go from an idea to a legit impactful organization in a matter of, feel like, weeks. Yeah.
You scaled to $1 million within a few years, right?
Yeah. We hit $1 million probably in, I think, just under 2 years.
Yeah. That's just crazy growth. They always say, like, in business, if you grow more than 20% in any year, the wheels totally fall off the bus. It doesn't matter how smart or great you are. Like, the systems that work to get you here are going to get you here. And when you go from 0 to $1 million, that means the wheels have fallen off the bus like a couple dozen times. It's just like, holy smokes.
It was wild. It's wild. I think just the way that because this is such a community-centered organization, though, that's what's keeping this alive. Like, I tell people, like, this can't operate without community. And I mean, the proof is 2023. So 2022, we almost raised $1 million in that year, all by just alone.
Yeah.
2023, we significantly dropped to about 400,000, just over 400,000. And so we weren't able to make, and plus we're transitioning into a nonprofit. So we weren't able to do as many home improvement services as we once did in 2022, but our volunteer program just absolutely grew and developed. And I think we probably did 3 times as many houses with our volunteers than we did in the previous years. So, I mean, that just right there is proof of like how important our volunteers and our community is to keeping this alive and sustainable.
For our listeners who aren't familiar with Taking Ownership PDX, who specifically do you serve, and how do they become a client of yours?
Taking Ownership serves specifically African-American homeowners that are at 120% AMI or below. And how they get on our list is they fill out a referral form on our website, and then they get on our wait list, and then we contact them and gather what the information we need, and then they're on a wait list. Unfortunately, they're on a wait list for quite a while, and we try to get through it as fast as we can, but resources are limited. But the cool thing is once they're on our wait list, we have partners. So we have a database where we're able to reach out to them and be like, hey, Verde wants to install free rain gardens in this many houses.
Awesome.
And then, so we've done that. Like Verde's done probably 15 to 20 houses and giving them rain gardens. Energy 350 wants to install brand new heat pump water heaters and replace your gas ones. We did about 10 of those for homeowners while they're on the wait list. So it's, at least we're able to like provide them with some sort of resources while they are waiting for us to raise the money.
And how many people are on that wait list?
I think we're right around 250.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
And we've helped now about 100, just over 106. So
yeah, so the need is there. I mean,
the need is there, and it's growing. It's not stopping. Like every day we get a new referral, a new person like, hey, this is happening. So it's there.
And because so many of the people that you serve are seniors, they're probably not getting the same like Instagram blow up that I was about you. Like, check this guy out.
They saw me on the news, a lot of them.
Okay.
Or they hear about me through a program that they may be in or something. That's typically where we get heard. How they get connected,
and then they fill out the form and get referral. And then how can people, managing volunteers. Managing people is tough. And I have volunteered for a lot of organizations, and your organization does such a good job of taking a big group of people who may have varied level of skill, right? And making everyone feel like they really participated and there was a win. Like I'm looking as a business owner of like, this is magic. Like that is a skill. Like it is hard because like organizing people towards a common mission. How do volunteers come to you, and what have been some of the challenges of organizing them?
Well, Jed Overly is my right hand man. He's the one.
Awesome.
He's the one that does that. He has a skill for that for sure. We should have brought him on because he plays in a punk band himself. He just kills it, and the volunteers love him. But same, volunteers hear about us same way you heard about us, just kind of word of mouth. Social media is a big one. Through the news. Yeah, that's how they've been connected with us. But I actually don't really touch that realm of taking ownership. I've been able to delegate that, and that's Jed's program, and he just does such an awesome job of running that and just organizing everybody. I wish I knew how he did it. I wish I had those. I wish I had those skills.
We always say it's like if you as the leader are asking how, it's not how, it's who.
Right.
Exactly. If it's just not natural, then who?
I have a whole team right now, thankfully, of people who, unfortunately, they're not full-time employees, but they're, subcontracted. And right now I have a whole team that are all like left brain people because I'm very right brain, very I'm more creative and the charismatic and can get in front of people. And these are the people getting the data and helping me write grants and all that. And it's just, part of being a leader is what I've learned is you got to be able to delegate. You got to have the right people around you. I don't have those, I don't have all the strengths. And there was a time, and I spoke about this when I spoke here, where I tried to do everything. And I'll tell you what, that took a toll.
That'll crush you quick.
That crushed me fast. Yeah.
What have been the biggest challenges? I always hear the process of becoming a nonprofit is really challenging. What for you has been the most challenging part of this?
Just all the forms and filling out all these things and all the budgeting and all, that's why I'm so glad I have this team that helps so much, because that's just not who I am. I like to be with people. I like to talk with people. I can talk about the issues. I can, convince people that this is important and all that. They just make it so challenging and because we had already been working for 3 years prior to applying for our 501c3 status, it made it even more challenging because we already brought in $1 million plus. And then, just constantly having to communicate with the IRS. That's never fun.
No, nobody is like,
so,
yes.
Unless they're giving us a tax return, but I haven't seen one of those in a while. So, it's just that's the hardest part. Luckily, I had a great lawyer too that really held my hand through a lot of that. Now that we are a nonprofit, our fiscal sponsor no longer works with us, and they were doing our books and doing a big portion of helping us with our operations as well. And now that they're gone, it's now us kind of figuring out a whole new system and figuring out how we're going to operate completely independent now. And that's a challenge because I am still the only full-time employee, so I'm overseeing everything and figuring out how to do all this, getting insurances and all the stuff.
It's a lot.
That sucks.
Oh, yeah. Because when you're inspired by the work, there's probably not a single second you're like, you know what I love? Filling out really detailed forms.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with what the work or the passion.
Yeah, and we saw this glimpse in 2020 and 2021 of maybe society changing. I mean, even grants became a lot easier. The gatekeeping was starting to go away. They made applications really easy to fill out. Sometimes, Nike just called me and was like, hey, we're sending you a check. I was like, oh, awesome. Cool. You don't need a report on it or nothing. I'm like, wow. It looked really like, oh, we're heading in this new direction where it's not going to be such, a capitalistic, bureaucratic, gatekeeping world. But we're kind of heading back to business as usual.
Yeah.
And now, now we got to play the game. And I'm not a huge fan of that game.
No. Who did you talk about? Nike being able to just call you up. We're lucky to live in a city where they're here and call you up and send you a check. Had there been some other major players for you, just as far as funding, or was there a Hail Mary moment or any of that where someone stepped in?
Yeah, we've had a couple of big we've had some people, a lot of donors, private donors who have Roth IRAs or Fidelity or stuff like that, where they've donated big amounts to us. Meyer Memorial Trust gave us our biggest grant.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. The Collins Foundation gave us a really big one. Reimagine Oregon and Prosper have got us a grant very recently they made very simple for us. So yeah, there's still some folks out there that are actually, still trying to eliminate all the red tape and get this funding out to Black-led organizations, because a lot of organizations did spawn from the BLM movement. A lot of Black-led ones, BIPOC ones, and a lot of them got kind of hung out to dry when the whole bureaucratic and gatekeeping procedures came back in these funding opportunities. They weren't, last year was, like I said, was a very difficult year. And we didn't really start seeing funding till the end of the year last year, when people were trying to get, their donations out. So there was a time last year where I was sweating and I was updating my resume.
Yeah. I've also been really encouraged to see that the leaders of some of these large organizations that you're talking about have put Black leaders at the top of those organizations.
Yes.
So Toya Fick at Meyer Memorial, and to, community, to see the community, to see the need. And I'm really hopeful because that's the gatekeeper in town, right? That opens that gate and then everybody else decides, okay,
Right.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why Reimagine Oregon and Prosper Portland were able to give us a grant so in such a accessible way, is because they put some Black leaders in position to do that. And folks that I've known for years. So, it's awesome to see these people getting those positions. And also it's great that I've had some relationships with these people, because it puts us in a position where we can actually access some of this money that's coming out.
When I heard you speak, you spoke about your greatest challenge thus far in leading the organization was a bit of a personal one. And I would love for you to talk about that a little bit, because I think as leaders, we have to take care of ourselves and our mental health. And do you mind sharing with our listeners what that was?
I spoke about how, my father passed away suddenly in February of 2022. And, very suddenly, we didn't know he had anything going on that was going to take him out. That traumatic experience happened, and I kind of just went right back to work a few days later after that, I got the word out to the community and stuff, but with the organization being so small and me being the only full-time employee and everything running through me, in order to keep things operating, I still had to check emails and communicate, and had, some people didn't know, people didn't, not everybody's on my social media. Not everybody's following me. So some people are still reaching out. Big opportunities are coming. And I'm thinking to myself, my dad was very proud of me for what I've done. He said things I've never heard him say in my life. So, and I've never known self-care. I wasn't taught self-care growing up. I became a dad at 19. I had to go become a man overnight and a provider overnight. So I've been just kind of grinding. So I just kind of went back to work, and a few months into it, the stress of work and the stress of my father being gone, and the dynamic with my mom is different now. It really piled up, and I had what I felt like a nervous breakdown. And, it was so odd. How it happened was I was getting my hair cut. I was in the barber chair, and he's getting ready to line up my beard, and my face just starts twitching. And he's not trying to, he's not trying to, that's his reputation, cut half my mustache off, So I eventually was like, hey, I just need to go home and figure I'll line myself up. I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on. But that just kind of led to weirdly just this severe social anxiety where whenever I was just talking one-on-one with somebody or just in a place where there's a lot going on, I just get overwhelmed. I start feeling like I'm going to faint. I felt like my brain was inflaming. I was am I going to stroke out? I felt like this eye kind of going numb, which is a weird sensation and hard to kind of explain the sensation, but leg twitching. And then I just couldn't speak in front of people. I couldn't do all the things I used to feel so comfortable doing. And that was so debilitating to my ability to keep this, organization going, because so much of it is doing interviews, is meeting with people. I couldn't even meet with people over Zoom, sitting on the comfort of my couch. It was just, it took a lot out of me, and I've started having to really dedicate a lot of my time to delegating my work, finding time to really step away from taking ownership, because I can easily do taking ownership 7 days a week. Or more, right?
Much more.
So I really taking days, did a lot of studying on what, how to reset the nervous system, how to, what's going on with me. I did hypnotherapy. I did, breath work, a lot of meditation, all kinds of things. I just tried everything. I did a lot of reading and gained a whole lot of tools that really helped me get myself back and get myself better, because anxiety is not something new to me. I have been dealing with anxiety since I had my first panic attack when I was 26. From there, it snowballed into a disorder, which prevented me from flying, going on vacation, anything, any situation where I felt trapped, I avoided. But since this nervous breakdown and gaining all the tools that I gained, because it was so important for me to get back to a position where I felt comfortable speaking and doing this work and keeping this thing sustainable, I gained so many tools that I feel like I'm even beyond where I was, prior to that. I'm flying now, I have the tools to be able to work myself through situations where normally I'd feel trapped or I'd feel socially anxious. And, so I'm just like all around in a better place, thankfully. There's always silver lining to these challenges.
I know, right? Like it's come out better.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what self-care now looks like for you day to day. You got a lot on your shoulders. You have a big organization. You are in the public eye in a way. I mean, you can't go anywhere in the city, right? Without people being like, hey, I bet.
Yeah.
So how do you take care of yourself?
Well, a lot of exercise, a lot of basketball. I love basketball. I mean, just shooting around has been therapy for me since I was a little kid. So, and it's still my thing. Breath work is like my big thing. I'll preach about this. I preached about it the other day. There's this app that I use a lot called Oxygen Advantage, which has me going for walks in my neighborhood, doing breath techniques while I'm walking, doing breath work in my house, a lot of yoga, a lot of meditation, a lot of gratitude. I often speak to the universe about what I'm grateful for. A lot of time with my kids, and I like to have fun. I like to go out with my friends and play video games and all that stuff. So
yeah, I noticed. I have a practice of transcendental meditation, and I don't miss a day because the effects the rest of the day, like it just feels like, oh, something's missing, something's not right.
Absolutely,
like I got it. Like that comes before all other things, that has to stack on taking care of myself and that. And I tape my mouth at night when I sleep. And I'll kind of go in and out, but I noticed this last time I was having a lot of stress and I started taping my mouth, and I've noticed a big step back, and it's like just getting enough.
The nose
air.
breathing is everything. It's a game changer. That's the slogan. They ask you in the app, did you tape your mouth? I haven't done it yet.
Well, it's a bit weird, and also, it definitely cuts down any chance of making out once that thing goes on.
Yeah.
My husband's like, well, and I guess we're done for the night.
yeah. That shuts that down immediately.
Yeah. It's silly, but holy, I call it my poor man's CPAP machine.
Yeah.
Having done this now here in Portland, in this city, my question is, how come this isn't in every city in America?
That's a good question. It would be hard for me to speak to that because I don't know the cultures of every city. I got flown out to Philadelphia recently to speak on a panel out there and visited some cities in the East Coast. I think a couple things come into play. We have a very small Black community and a very large white community, and our white community actually here is very progressive, thinking people, and I think. We saw it in the Black Lives Matter. We made national news. We were the ones. The big city. That everybody was talking about during the Black Lives Matter movement because of how consistent we were with our protests and everything. And so I think that plays a big role in why this model gets so much support. I don't think that's the case everywhere in America, especially when you think about some of the politics in the South. Right? They're like eliminating DEI work. They're eliminating critical race theory in some of these. They're going back to the 40s in some of these states.
Yeah.
We're in a very progressive region. I think that helps a lot. I think with having a larger Black community, I think it's just the need would be huge, and they would need support from the government. They would need like that big money to really make a dent in those Black communities in the East Coast and, some of these other places. And then for me, I've tried to implement this model in other cities, and, there's just the people that were going to run the model just didn't have maybe the engagement from the community. They didn't have the leadership skills or just the capacity to take it on. I started this during a time when we were all at home, and the pandemic had us all sitting and watching TV, watching our phones, and I had the capacity at that time. I also started this when I was working at Portland Youth Builders, and we were on summer vacation. So I actually wasn't even working, so I had all the time during the day to really dive into this. And I don't know if everybody has that perfect timing.
Yeah.
Some people have other jobs, regular jobs and personal lives and stuff. So
Right place, right time.
right, yeah, everything was just like perfect.
Another incredible human here in Portland I admire so deeply, Tyrone Poole, who has done a lot with basically that if you want to rent a place, and he was like, wow, this is so expensive. You go and you have to pay for multiple rental applications. We should create a system. You pay once and then you get in. And to me, I immediately went to like the implications of like, if we could get this adopted on a national level, like here is someone that's actually writing the script.
Right.
For how we actually make headway in America for housing, more equitable housing for all citizens. And I think what also, you here are like writing this plan that like, if we can mobilize on a national level, here's the playbook to help actually keep people in, whether it's a move towards reparations, whether it's a move towards ensuring that we've got more Black Americans that are going to be able to take advantage of generational wealth.
Right.
But both the organizations are big, huge deals here in this city, but like I just like to see them be big, huge deals on national level too.
Yeah. And the cool thing is we are getting some national exposure, and we've had stories on NPR, OPB, CNN, so it's getting out there. And I think there are other similar models. I mean, I know there are. There's other things popping up, and there's even places. There's some cities that are actually starting to actually get reparations on a state level or a city level, where they're talking about actually giving out reparations. So I think the conversations are happening.
Yeah.
I think reparations is something that will be in our near future. I just think it's going to have a lot of resistance against it.
Yeah.
So it's going to take some time.
What are some things that like really stick in your heart of the folks that you have served? And I also know you personally have a pretty cool story too, about home ownership through this.
Some projects that really stand out to me, it was a recent one where we renovated a kitchen that had burned down and left the home uninhabitable to the homeowner. And so we were able to get in there. It took about a year to renovate. Took a lot of resources. Had volunteers come in and clean up and everything. And so now the house is in much better shape. The homeowner is able to move into the place, and I believe soon they will be. That one really stands out to me. Also, just a few homeowners who their partners passed away, and their partners were, that's a second income that's gone. That maybe their partner was, handy and handled a lot of the maintenance. We were able to get in there and really take care of a lot of the deferred maintenance. And, when you're in a state of grief, maintenance isn't the priority on your list.
Yeah.
So it was really nice to go in, especially because of these homeowners. We worked with them right around the time my father passed. So I was like, it really touched me to be able to like help them out during that time.
That's really healing work, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. So it has just been a number of, every homeowner that we help, for the most part, they're so grateful. They usually can't believe we're going to do this work and actually like free of charge. There's no like, loopholes or, anything like any stipulations or anything. It's just, we're coming in, we're going to do this work. Most of them are senior citizens, so the help is immensely needed. Like, a lot of times they're alone in bigger homes. They raised a family in them, and they're still in those homes, and now they're just alone in them, and they just need a lot of help. So it's been huge. For me, my story, my whole life changed as well. A couple months after I started taking ownership, I was on the news a lot. A woman named Annie Moss saw me. She is a part of this group called Resource Generation, which is some radical allies that do reparations work through housing and other various ways. She wanted to transfer her home. She has multiple homes. One of the homes was in the central Albina neighborhood, which is a historically Black neighborhood due to redlining. That's been seriously and egregiously gentrified over the years.
And I just want to explain for any of our listeners who don't know what redlining is, but basically it's a historic practice that happened with banks where they would literally draw a red line on the map around areas where they would not lend money. And so you had whole communities where they couldn't get money for mortgages or to upkeep the house or any of these things. So,
and just left them very vulnerable to predatory development. Like that area is where they decided to build I-5 and the Memorial Coliseum and the Rose Garden, and she sent me an email saying I want to transfer this home to Black ownership. And, initially I was like, there's no way. So I ignored the email. I was like, this can't be
too good
true.
To be true.
Right? Yeah. And I was inundated at the time. So there's a lot going on, but she reached back out a week later, and thankfully, and was like, I'm serious. I really would love to talk to you and see if you can help me do this. I don't know how to go about this. Got on a FaceTime call with her. She's amazing. We just really hit it off. And I was renting a pretty crummy apartment at the time, mice infested. I was so ready to get out of there. I was like, well, I would love to own a home, and
single dad with two kids, like that would mean a lot.
It was perfect. And so, 4 months later, she sold me the house for what was left on the mortgage.
Incredible.
And it gifted me a large sum of equity. It's a beautiful home in a neighborhood that's pretty wealthy now. So it changed my life, put me in a position to now have a lot of options. I put a tiny home in the backyard and have a tenant in there making some passive income. It's low income housing too. So I'm able to contribute and put low income housing in a neighborhood that is pretty expensive. And I'm working on buying another house too. So
that's so awesome.
I went, in 4 years, went from a crummy apartment to almost three houses. Thanks to this woman.
That is amazing. And her generosity to the right person at the right time and what you've been able to do for others, what impactful investing. Yeah.
And the best part about it is that, she's an activist as well. And, so we were like, let's not stop here. Let's get this story out, and then figure out how can we do this and inspire other people to do the same or similar types of redistribution of wealth. And so we started a collective together called PDX Housing Solidarity Project. And now we have a great team of volunteers that we run like a listserv of 170 allies who donate money directly to Black and Indigenous families that aspire to be first-time home buyers. That money helps them become mortgage ready, alleviates debt, gives them opportunity to put down payments on homes here in Portland or anywhere in Oregon, So we've been able to help about 12 to 15 Black and Indigenous families buy homes.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
And then I was curious, your ADU, did you partner with Back Home ADU?
Yeah.
Is that
Okay. I was their first client.
You were?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we managed for them. But when they were starting up, Living Room's got a partnership with them.
Yeah. Because you all are my property manager.
Yeah. I know it's a small world.
They reached out. Ted Gilbert reached out to me.
I own this building that we're in right now with Ted.
Oh, really?
Because he also does he has a commercial financing model for businesses where he brings in groups of owners and then finds small business owners to partner with to help them get into their buildings and build stability for local companies.
That's awesome. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I've gotten to know Ted and John Miller pretty well.
Yeah.
And he reached out to me, just kind of cold called me and started telling me about this pilot for an organization that he wanted to do. And I was like, well, I'm getting ready to buy a house. And he called me early, August of 2020 or something. And I was like, I'm getting ready to buy a house. I'll have a backyard. And I knew I had a dilapidated garage in the back. So I was like, let's do this. You know? And it went pretty smooth. It was a great process. They really held my hand through it all. They coordinated well, and you all nailed it with finding me an awesome tenant.
Oh, good.
I love my tenant. She's awesome. So
happy landlords, happy tenants, happy landlords. That's what we say. Yeah. Ted, probably like Annie and Ted to you too, but there's some guardian angels. I feel like it's wow, they are real. Like
Yeah.
angels are real. They are here doing some work, and and then it's humble, and it's like, how do I return that? How do I do that same
Absolutely.
work for someone else?
It's always about, paying it forward.
Moving into a home, coming from you were described as a rat infested or mouse infested apartment to home
It was my
ownership.
first time dealing with that too. That was rough.
Yeah, enough.
Yeah.
And these twin boys you've had, and they have been on this journey with you. You've kind of, as a young dad, one of those things, you get to kind of grow up with your kids.
Absolutely.
Right?
100%.
And seeing that they've been on that journey with you to start taking ownership and to see you buy your first house, like, what is that like? They might not even have the words for it yet as young men, but that must just feel so significant for you to share that with them.
Yeah, it means the world, especially when, you're young. When they were first born, I had a minimum wage job, in 2005, working at Tower Records. We were living in my childhood bedroom with a little cradle, with a crib. So to go from that, and over the years, by the time now they were 15 when I was able to buy the house. And before that, we lived in 11 different places, 12 different places, various apartments, garages, wherever we could find, a place. It means, it just meant so much because, like, I actually now have provided for their future. Before it was survival mode. It was like, okay, I can provide food, shelter, to the best of my ability. They always had clothes and all the things, the basic needs. But now I'm actually like setting them up for their future, for their adulthood, which is just like, as a father, that's exactly, or as a parent, period.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you're trying to do, is set them up for a better life than you had. Doing everything I can to make sure that when they have kids, they're not going to have to live in 11 different places. I didn't have to do that. I only lived in 2 or 3 different homes growing up because both my parents were together and there's 2 incomes, and they were established by the time I was born. So I felt even more bad that I was like doing this to them, but they, my kids are such easygoing and just, I think that's one thing that they're going to gain from this. They're resilient as hell.
Oh yeah.
They're easygoing. They adapt quick. So at least they got that from the struggle.
Yeah.
But now they won't have to do that. They're going to have a place to live. And then I own multiple homes. They can rent out a place from me. And that's the goal, at least.
What's it like to look at them, and they're the age, I think they're like the exact age that you were when you became a dad, right?
Yep.
What is that like to look at them? And has it been a little bit of a reckoning for yourself of like, I
just really like, they better not have any kids anytime soon. Don't do that to me.
But it also must give you, the gravity, the appreciation of, I was your age and this is put upon me and this has been my path. And like, just, that's incredible.
It is. It's when I look at them now and how much they are still like kids, they are kids.
Yeah.
We can call them adults all we want in society, but
they're kids.
They're kids. And, we all know, like, the human brain is not even fully developed till you're 25.
I think for a minute it might be 30.
Mine might still be developing. But, just like, it really shows what I was able to accomplish, and, like, I'm pretty proud of myself because I was a kid like them at that age too. I was running the streets and just trying to party. Even after they came into my life, I was still like trying to get out the house and, trying to figure, but I stayed disciplined. Even when my friends were calling me like, what, you can't leave? I was there for my kids. And from the day they came into my life, I got a new job. I got an apartment pretty quick. I grew up, and I have an appreciation for that because I'm seeing my kids at 19, like, and just seeing how I was able to grow up so fast and be there for them. So.
You're giving them something you didn't get to have, to be 19.
Right. Yeah. And I'm hoping that they, I want them to not have to go from boys into men so fast,
overnight.
They get to gradually, get on their feet, and then I'm not forcing them out the house or anything. So yeah.
If there was like a theme song for your life right now, where you're at, Or like, this year had a song, what would it be?
I don't know. One song I always listen to is from Nas. It's called You're the Man. I don't know. I just listen to that. And I mean, I know it sounds like kind of cocky or whatever, but like, I am really proud of myself. And a lot of times I'm like, man, I mean, I can't believe I'm doing this. And that song really just like makes me feel kind of like a king. Like I'm the man. Like I can't believe I'm doing this. And it's hard, but I'm doing it. That's probably like the song I listen to the most, just because you got to be proud of your accomplishments. I went from a mice-infested apartment to this, helping my community. Like, man, so yeah.
Right? Yeah, leading from within, and you did it in a way in alignment with like who you are and your heart and for your community.
Yep. So yeah, I gotta pat myself on the back here.
Yeah, you do. It's beautiful. If that fills you up and keeps you doing the work you're doing, I am on the volume button. Let's turn it up. Let's turn it up. For people that are not familiar with Taking Ownership PDX, after this, I'm sure they're going to be getting online and checking you out. But where can people find out more about you and the organization?
They can go to takingownershippdx.org. Everything you need to know about us is right there, except for our small business assistance program. We don't have that quite up and running on the website yet. So there is that. But you can go there. You can go to our social media pages. We're very active on Instagram. It's just Taking Ownership PDX on there. Facebook we're pretty active on there. You can follow me personally, Randal Wyatt, music. Those are all the places you can find us.
And what do you need? If someone listens to this interview or someone's been following you for a while and they're like, how can I get involved? Like, what are some of the couple of big things that you guys really need or make a difference for you right now?
It's funding. I mean, that's just the big thing. Without the money, it's hard to make an impact. We have a lot of volunteers signed up, over 500, but I do still encourage people to sign up because, like you said, our volunteer projects are, a very inspiring and rewarding thing to experience. And I want, everybody in the city to experience that. And, in this city, being how white it is, as a white person, it's easy for you to not have an opportunity to interact with the Black community in a meaningful way. And this is a way to do that, So I do encourage people to sign up as a volunteer. If you run an organization or a construction company or some sort of vendor in the housing repair world, come partner with us. We need, we're always looking for new people to work with, new people to hire. But yeah, the big thing is funding opportunities.
Randal, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Yeah.